Hi, everyone. How are you? God dang it, I'm not going to get used to that. Happy Athletics LLC Day, aka Friday. Yay!
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah, crazy. Welcome back to the tiles. To me, I don't know what this looks like for you all, the two bottoms. Welcome back from prelims. Good stuff that we saw last week from you two, and we'll talk about that more later tonight, but welcome back. Way to survive a meet, weather delays and all. No one got struck by lightning, thank goodness.
Survive in advance, baby.
Right?
Survive and advance.
And it looked good doing it too. Well, welcome to season 2 of Athletics LLC. If you haven't been here, I don't know where you've been, but welcome and thanks for joining us anyways. Let's go ahead and introduce the tiles as we do always. Sir Lucious, how are you this evening, sir?
I am absolutely wonderful, my dear, as always.
Excellent. Taking a breath, hopefully. A quick
Absolutely.
one. Quick turnarounds, but a quick
short one.
Yep. Right? Clyde, how are you today, sir?
On location, doing well.
So not like it's a dig. I think I like them. It looks like you're in a pizza parlor. Because you know how like pizza parlors have those high back chairs?
Yes.
So not saying you're eating, but
Pizza would be nice at this moment, but no, I am actually on location in Gainesville, Florida.
What are you in?
Look at that.
I'm just kidding.
I'm Airbnb setup right now.
Yeah.
Love
A
it.
very nice one.
Love it. Don't catch a gator, a real gator, please.
No.
Last but definitely not least, Lamar, coach has been coaching. Have
That's
they?
Good. They have been. I will share with the world at some point in time this evening a little chart that somebody else put together as a cheat sheet that will put, I guess, the proper bow on how much coaches have been coaching in this last week.
Yes. And if you haven't seen or heard any of these results, I'm not sure, literally not sure where you've been, because they've been everywhere and it's been off the chain since last Thursday. So let's get it started.
Did Lamar just say that later in the show he will be detailing homework done by others?
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Cheat sheet.
For sure.
Wow.
So,
Don't pull a chew and get the facts wrong. That's all I gotta say.
I mean, many people have made. I mean, isn't that what Steve Jobs did?
oh Lord.
Just saying.
We're going down a rabbit hole now. Well, my bad, too. My bad.
Pump the brakes.
What's on deck?
Pump the brakes.
Oh.
All right. Well, let's talk about
Rest
this.
in peace, Steve Jobs. Rest in
Oh my
peace, Steve
Gina.
Jobs.
See, now your computer is going to blow up just for doing that. That's all
I said, rest in peace. I'm trying to be nice.
Anyhow, let's talk about one of the big glaring metrics that we were able to gauge from the weekend. At ATL Jacksonville, our friend Paul Doyle gave us the luxury of a metric given at the 40-yard, for clarification, yard, not meter, yard point in that 100-meter race. And we actually got to get some whole out times. Like, you can't argue these. They weren't made up. They weren't hand times to be converted. Nothing. Let's talk about it.
Well, what I want to do is I want to ask my man Clyde to comment on, I think you said something about how some of the women were faster than the average NFL guy at 40 yards.
Oh, man.
Oh, were they? Oh, yes, they were. Okay, so I was very outspoken during the Mount Sac competition about the whole gimmick that was the DK Metcalf. This is how you do gimmicks correctly for our sport. For Paul Doyle to come up with the idea of setting up FAT cameras at 40 yards to give the viewing audience and the larger public a concise understanding of what speed in our sport really looks like is cool, because it was solely focused on, oh, hello, our athletes and what they can do, given a metric that our country seems to obsess over, and in our opinion as professionals in this sport, way too much credence to. It was definitely cool to watch Ronnie Baker put up a time of 4.19, if I'm not mistaken, which no one at the meet, was shocked by. No one in the track world was shocked by. But see, it was better than that because they left the cameras running for the women. And that's the problem. That's the key. That's the goof of it on the football promoting culture at large that we have in this country. Brianna Williams, 4:48, if I'm not mistaken. There were two, Des Bryant. The best meme that I saw from this fallout was Des Bryant, female track professional, ran equal to NFL version of Des Bryant at his pro day back in the day when he did it. So
yes,
our Des, I'm sorry, it was better if I'm not mistaken. Our Des faster than the NFL Des for 40 yards. And that's the kind of information that the public needs to understand and pay proper respect to. And hopefully, if it garners enough attention and hopefully if enough people start to really pay attention to how spectacular these athletes are, especially the women, maybe it might springboard into some more ideas that actually get them paid for their talents at the level that they deserve. Because Des Bryant, Brianna Williams, Tiana, and a whole handful of people, we're talking about 4.4s, 4.5s, 4.6s. And the average, tailbacks, wide receivers, corners at the NFL Combine are doing this exact same thing. So I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was a great way to display what our athletes actually do and how powerful and fast and gifted they are. And that's the kind of gimmicks I like, gimmicks that focus on our people and their talents, nobody else.
What I thought, I'll jump in there if that's okay. What I thought was most interesting was we actually got a chance to show the rest of the world what the difference between quick and fast is, right? Because the 40-yard times were where they were at 40. And those results were highly different in most cases, except Ronnie Baker, to the 100-meter finishes. So the rest of the non-track and field world got to understand, like, hey, there's a world out there and there's a sport like football where being really fast, quick in our sport for 30 yards or 40 yards or 20 yards, that can get you a lot of money. But in our sport, you have to be able to manage all of that for almost 3 times that far.
Right.
And it's a whole different animal after 40 yards, after 80 yards, right? It's a whole different animal. And, I thought that was cool because, the layman could finally see, well, so-and-so ran this fast for a 40, but they got blown out.
Right.
Right? It's like, yeah, you can't just have a great start and be considered fast. Like, no, you can't.
And honestly, to that point, respectfully, on the women's side of things, that happened to Des. Because
for sure,
Des was crushing it at 40, but by the end, she wasn't in the greatest of positions. And I think if anything, that's what drives track people so crazy about that whole 40-yard discussion, because it gets so much credibility, but we understand, like, it's cute, but it doesn't mean anything by the end of the day. And, just something that I get a personal kick out of. I know it happens to men, but every woman I know from high school to college to pro that's ever been good at anything, their whole lives, when they find out you run track, some idiot says, well, what's your 40? Now some of our women have an answer for that. And you know what? It's going to blow the minds of anybody that actually takes the time to know it. So go ahead and ask them now.
The best part, just real quick to jump into that, right, is they ran a 40, yes, on a track, but out of blocks. and not from a 3-point that starts from your reaction.
Yeah, that's the
Right.
big one. That's the big one for me.
Right.
They don't go in. They go on a
Des,
gun. The other the
Right.
football players are going on their,
right.
their own.
If Des Bryant, our Des Bryant, runs a 40 off her movement, she runs 4.3. Like that's just a fact.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
you
I thought it was, brilliant by Paul. And we've been singing his praises for a long time on the show, and I think that kudos to him for putting on a fantastic event and a fantastic meet overall. And again, I think the 40 was brilliant, and it did show that the 40 means nothing to track and field, nothing at all. And
nothing.
big payday for Ronnie and for Des, I guess, because Ronnie, I think, to win the 40, you got $5K. To win the 100, you got 1,000. So you got more money to win the 40 in this race than you did to win the 100. So that was
Well, and that's still, that's still the backwards part of it. But that's, it is what it is. If I'm not mistaken, it was Mark Cuban's company that was sponsoring the 40-yard aspect of this, and so
right.
That's the part of this that we're still going to have to navigate and figure out how to move in the right direction. But it is moving in the right direction because Mark Cuban was paying attention to something going on at a track meet in Jacksonville, and he put up money behind it. Great. We would all like to see the 100-meter result garner the bigger check, and a lot bigger than they're currently getting. But at least people who wouldn't be paying attention otherwise were focused on this and saw value in it and put dollars behind it. And that was dope. So, we appreciate Mark Cuban for getting involved in that way,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Do you see, sorry, I'm going to add a question in here. Do you see any backlash from this 40-yard metric being taken, whether it be publicly, commercially, someone just takes a total left field? Do you feel like there's going to be any backlash to it from it?
I don't know how. I don't know why. I mean, there's somebody out there that's going to create a narrative to make themselves sound intelligent, I'm sure. But again, it was a good thing, and it came off well. And probably the greatest thing about it was how excited Lewis Johnson got when he saw the time. Tweet at me now.
Yeah, so, he sure did.
That was pretty cool.
Backlash too. I don't, like you said, you'd have to manufacture some outrage there. What I have found hilarious is, since the reporting of the numbers have come out, I've seen a lot of excuses. I've seen a whole lot of excuses from, the football community side of things, the people that like to pursue that narrative, like they knew they were going to take an L from the men. Well, of course, but you took an L from the women. And they're trying to figure out how to process that, and it's a lot of excuses, hilarious excuses, but the excuse train is off and running for sure.
Well, what I would hope is that they would have a greater respect for what the women in our sport are capable of doing. That's what I would
exactly, and that's the point.
Yeah.
The funniest part, what I would, if we're really going to start handing out L's, and I don't want us to ever do this, but what would really hand out L's is strength to weight ratios of football players and females and female sprinters and female jumpers. We don't even want to put female throwers in there, but female sprinters, right? Who can squat triple their body weight. And we all know several, right? And most men don't even think that's humanly possible. And a great number of men in the NFL would flat out bet you millions of dollars there's no woman who can do that. And we all know, every one of us knows several. And so that's the part they don't understand, is the thing that we really got figured out that they need to get figured out from us is the strength to weight ratio stuff, right? We do a better job of making people strong than everybody.
Well, and now, there's a whole can of that you're getting into there. So we all agree on that. But just for the record, if anybody hasn't had a chance to see the results, so in the women's final of the ATL Jacksonville 100, the results of the 40-yard dash were this: Brianna Williams won that, and she also won the race, 4.45. Micaiah Briscoe, 4.48. Tiana Bartoletta, 4.50. Kayla White, 4.54. Daryl Nieta, 4.60. Des Bryant, 4.61. English Gardner, 4.62. And Tynia Gaither, 4.69. And if I was allowed to gamble and had real money to gamble with, I wish I would have been standing next to anybody from the NFL before that race had started, because I would have retired a millionaire on Monday night.
I mean, yeah, because I can tell you this right now, if we were allowed to gamble, I would just straight out call out certain NFL football players to race certain female sprinters that I know. Just flat out. Pick the distance: 40, 60, 80, 100.
Well, and the gambling issue is real, right? Like, if you're looking for the singular, the single greatest thing that our sport could do to unlock attention and money, it's the gambling. And if this 40 experiment didn't tell you that, then you have no concept of what this really is, because that right there is where it is.
Okay, well, let's let that lead us into track is back, because that was like that big in regards to that meet that day. And then what happened in the weekend before that? Holy moly.
Quite the week, wasn't it?
Right? Let's talk about it.
Wait,
wow.
before y'all talk, I was just gonna throw some marks out there and then hand it off to Sir Lucious to actually talk about it.
Okay.
So someone compiled this for our group. Top marks from the NCAA D1 prelim round. So that's just from last week. On the men's side, you got 997, 1994, 4457, 145.57, 335.49, 1340, 28.29, and then 1324 in the hurdles, 48.58 in the long hurdles, 837, which is a monster mark for a qualifier in the steeplechase, 38.54, and then the ridiculous one of 259.21. So that's just the track on the men's side. Just the track on the women's side is actually far better, in my opinion, which is even crazier. 1089, 2213, 4968. That's another 2 flat without the collegiate record holder. 409, 1545, 3306, and then 1244 in the hurdles and 5607 in the long hurdles, 940 in the steeplechase. And oh, by the way, 4263 and 325.84 in the relays. That was just last week on the track.
Yes, it was.
Go get them. Go get them. Go get them, coach.
Well, I mean, I think that being over here in the east side of things, watching the athletes prepare in the warm-up area, their focus, their enthusiasm on the track was incredible all weekend. I mean, you saw things like 10-10 doesn't make the meet this year. 20-50 something doesn't make the meet. You just, you do that kind of thing all day. I think 13 flat didn't make the meet in the women's hurdles on this side. And I think that what you saw was a lot of just, but this is uncommon and this happens every year. But I think the thing that was really great about this year was there was just more enthusiasm. And I think it was because the athletes that were there watching the meet couldn't get in the stands. So they were in the warm-up area. So the excitement was greater back there. And it just led to an incredible performance. I mean, excuse me, of all the great things 259 was by far the most impressive thing we saw all weekend because they won by 6 seconds. You know.
Yeah.
The 259, because that deserves some special attention. I thought, and I obviously Lucious was there in person, so his impression of it is going to be different because he got to see it live. Watching that team go for that in a moment where they absolutely didn't have to was, amazing, inspiring, and in my opinion, smart. It's going to be harder to do. That record's going to be harder to get at the NCAAs than it would have been to get right there. And they swung for the fences, and damn it, they almost got it.
Yep,
they almost got it. It was for me watching it. It didn't click in my head that they were going for it until about the third leg. I'm like, wait a minute. Like, I think they're trying to set this thing right now. And then, it's hard to decipher watching the clock on the screen if, how close they are to it. But man, once you realize that they were really trying to go for it, it was very exciting. And
well, you had been
that group.
being in the building, so to speak, all weekend. No surprise for me. They went for it all weekend long. I mean, like anytime an A&T athlete stepped on the track, they were on fire. Women, the young lady ran 10.9. She ran 22 in the middle, 2 hurdles at 12.80. They're 42 seconds in the short relay. On the men, it's 10.1, 20.30 or 20.40 something, and 2 guys at 44. 38.5 in the short relay. I mean, they came to play. They had a guy run 148 to get to meet in the 800 this year. So, they came to play. So if you were there at the meet, no one was surprised they went for it in the 4x4. And knowing Dwayne as I do, they'd been off for 3 weeks because the conference was already in everybody else's. I think he was just trying to shake off a little rust, and which is a little scary because I think they might be even better at the national level. I really do. They look that good. They
did look that good. They absolutely did. They all the bullets fired and fired well.
Yes. Okay. Loudly on Memorial Day weekend.
On my Bowerman watch list, just for the record.
Yeah. we know that. We none of us are distance based in our background, and so it just so happens that I was watching the East on my computer during the Western delay for weather, and I was sitting amongst some of our distance crew, and one of the most amazing things I saw in the East, 3:39.88 in the men's 1500 was number 12.
Number 12.
I don't fully understand what that means, but I know it's ridiculous. I know it's nuts. And if I'm not mistaken, I heard on the broadcast that is the fastest prelim in that event in NCAA history.
Yes.
Usually that right there is like what happens at the games. Like it's like that at the games and no place else.
I mean, that one of the events that just stood out to me, that was definitely.
Yeah, and the other thing I think on the East too, I think it took 2:02 to get out in the women's 800.
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken, yeah.
Yeah.
I think 2:03. A lot of 2:03s are sitting at home. And you go to the West. The women's 400 was pretty good over there, wasn't it?
The women's
hey, shout out to Quincy Watson, Carol Smith Gilbert. They had 5 of the 12 girls of the West 400 are from USC. So
I was going to say the only thing out West about the women's 400 was disrespectful is what it was, and it was disrespectful on 2 levels. What the USC women did to the field was utterly disrespectful. Okay, you can't have half the spots. Like, you just went out there, took half the spots, and chucked up the deuces, and all of that's cool. However, what Miss Mo did to the whole field was even more disrespectful. Like, how you run 50-80 and got drugged? Like, Kaylin
Got beat by a full second.
Kalen Roberts is an exceptionally talented NCAA champion at that distance and was not in the frame when Mo crossed the line. Like
in her B event.
In her secondary event. and so there was just disrespect being passed out all over the track in the women's 400 out west. And for me, as a super nerd, as somebody that, you know, follows, you know, the points and all of this other stuff, like, I also think it's brilliant strategy that A&M is putting Mo in the straight up 4, a strategy that, you know, didn't go the way they wanted it to go indoors, but outdoors, you're putting her in the 4 to take points away from USC, because on paper, it looks like the meet is between A&M, USC, and LSU. So it's a strategic thing. I'm a fan of it all the way around. But man, the 400, oh my God. Like it was
the other strategic move there is that, well, let's be realistic. I think you got to believe she's going to win either one. But by running the 4, she gets more rest for the 4x4, because if they're going to win the 4x4, she needs to be a little fresh.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. 100%. Like the 4x4 game is simple. How far away can we get from Mo? Because you know it's coming.
Yes.
Like she's 49.6 open. There's a 48 mid coming. So how far away can you really get?
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed, sir. I totally agree. You know, I'm gonna have to give you credit, because the young lady from LSU in the hurdles, my goodness.
Tonia Marshall.
Oh my goodness. Not only does she get an invite to the party now, she gets an invite. She's in the front row. Like she gets the spotlight and the whole deal.
Amen.
And see, it was one thing to watch her race, but her preparation for the race, watching her and Dennis and his assistants prepare her and her teammates for that race, it was apparent from the time she came back from the 4x1 that she was on a mission to let everybody know that she was and is the real deal. And, you know, Todia, a phenomenal job. Watching her do that was, you know, wow. You know, she is not one of the favorites. She is a major player when it comes to women's hurdles.
And you know what's dope about Tonia, at least for me as obviously a super fan of the hurdles. I watched then Brianna Rollins set the collegiate record. And when she did it, the general consensus was she put that thing too far away. It's not going to be challenged. Oh, no. Tonia Marshall can challenge that record.
Yeah. Well, it's been challenged. I mean, it's what's it, 39, and I think Camacho Quinn ran 40.
Yep.
Last year in Kentucky. So it's been challenged. And, you know, the thing about Tonia, she starts so well.
Yes.
I mean, she just shocks the field like, well, she's gone. You know, it's one of those. And so, no, phenomenal performance. And you know, talk about A&T, LSU was just as equally impressive across the board as well. You know, on the men's and women's side, qualifying well on the track and in the field. And, you know, I think it's going to be some interesting team battles at the meet this year, and it'll be exciting to watch those people come together next week in Eugene and get in the cathedral, as it's been dubbed by my man Clyde, and get it done.
Yeah. Not to be lost, if we're talking about groups of people that did extremely well out west, listen, I'm not really sure why this is flying under the radar as it is. University of Houston men took 1/3 of the field, okay? 12th, 9th, 7th, and number 1 win legal 20.19 seconds. So, you know, Carl and Leroy are out there getting it done. And, you know, taking 1/3 of an NCAA qualifying round is really hard to do. And they had the 14th finisher too. So they almost put 5 in there. Like that crew ran their asses off this weekend. and that was a lot of fun to watch. So props for sure to Leroy Houston and the University of Houston men's 200 meter crew. They were rolling. Lamar. Lamar. You threw out your other people's homework, but you ain't thrown no names yet.
Well, I wanted to let folks talk about. Look, what happened this past week was so expansive. Like, we really do have to break it up into pieces, right? Like, because for my money, like, the fact that Turner Washington came back to the track and showed up and did a couple things, right? He's like, oh, did y'all miss? Right? Did y'all miss me? Oh, my bad. Here, hold this. Right? And then his teammate, fresh off of breaking the collegiate record in the discus and not having it not count, she was like, hold my beer. Right? You know what I mean? Like unfazed is my point. Like, phased. I think a great number of athletes would be like in an uproar about the whole like record, not record thing. She is unfazed. She's just going to break it again. She's just going to break it.
But absolutely.
Right. She's just going to break. And in her mind, like.
Okay, so can I ask you a question about this record-breaking performance?
Yes.
When did it happen again?
Last week.
Okay, so it happened after the conference meet?
Yeah, between the conference meet and the
which is why it can't count, because you can't have a script. You don't use schedule after the conference meet, sir.
Okay.
He's taking a petty shot at you. It's
well. No. I'm trying.
I'm not mad at it.
To educate the young man. I'm not trying to be petty. I leave all the pettiness to you and him. Because Q and I would never be petty. So I don't know what we're talking about.
Oh Lord.
I'm not going to get into this.
There's nothing to get into. This is a rule.
There is something to get into, but we're not going to get into it.
You can't schedule a meet in between your conference and the regional meet, sir. You just can't do it.
Okay. Again, I'm gonna let you tell it.
All right, we're going to move.
Therefore, it's been told. So anyway, we're going to move
forward.
We're
going to move him off of that. Personally, I found it very exciting to see Bryce Dedman back looking like himself.
Yes.
Right? 44, 57. Handled that field,
handily.
Easily handled that field. So,
the men's 400 hurdles in the West was pretty saucy too, wasn't it?
Oh,
yes. 4 guys under 49.
Listen.
Yeah.
400 hurdles.
Yeah.
The men's 400 hurdles. And I want to be clear about this. Like, people are so enthralled in the performances, like, especially if you weren't there in person. You got to understand, the whole men's meet was screwed up by the weather.
Yep.
They had to run, like, we had lightning storms, of course, it's Texas. We had lightning storms that totally killed the Friday that was supposed to be. And these men had to basically wait up most of the night to find out whether they were going to get to run, and then come back in the morning on a made up schedule and just get it in, and still performed at a dramatically exceptional level. Mm-hmm. The men's 400 hurdles, you're talking about 48-58 by Isaiah Livingston of Oklahoma. Shout out to the OU coach and staff. Texas A&M Corpus Christi, 48-79. That man's name is Leonardo Legister. I know I screwed that up, but that's all right. Okay. Texas A&M, 48-81. USC, 49-46. Texas, 49-69. Iowa, 49-70. Sam Houston, 49-70. Oregon, 49-83. 8 of the top 12 under 50 seconds. Fantastic job in the 400.
Running.
Yeah, I mean, there was one of the things I think I was struck most by this week was the depth of things, right? Like, it taking 182 to make it out in the high jump was moderately surprising, but not that surprising. But it being 182 clean, that was surprising. The fact that there were several 182s and several 219s left at the house because they didn't do it on the first attempt. That was pretty saucy.
Yeah.
That was pretty saucy. And the fact that, you know, the heptathlete in her B or C event, I'm gonna say the long jump is probably her C event, 695 for Miss Gittens. Is that right? 95, 696.
Miss Gittens was out there just handling
me.
business on a you know, an easy weekend by her standards. She didn't have to do the hep.
Right. Let me go jump 182 clean real quick. Oh wait, I should take my sweats off. Okay. All right, let me get serious. Jump 696 real quick, and then here. I'll talk to y'all later. I gotta go train. Right. This past weekend was just it was crazy. And here's the unfortunate part. And if anybody on this show didn't think that I was going to bring this up, y'all don't know me, and I know y'all know better. It was crazy, but one particular person decided to take the fortune of the crazy and take a petty shot at both me and Sir Lucious.
Oh, all right. Well, we can
See,
pause and go there.
So let's address this. All right. So, and in this petty shot, in this tweet, we want to discuss the fact that there was an event where there were 3 guys that were in the top 32 that made it to the show. And okay, got it, right? And I'm gonna give my man Clyde props for pointing out that this was a different year. There was restrictions on conferences, and Big Ten especially couldn't do things that they were able to do in the past. We weren't able to travel as much. So I think that led to a lot of what went on this year. I think there were a lot more wind-dated marks that got to the meet than have gotten to the meet in the past. So, but let's not start taking pot shots at people and making, you know, sideways comments, because this happens every year. This wasn't anything new, you know. And so, Mr. Herbert, because you're the guy that started the tweet, so since we want to delve into this, and let's delve into the fact that, you know, the whole Reinstate 48, as you admitted to me, was about the distance events. Okay, so let's stick to that. Okay, we got the Reinstate the 48. You got people there. I will never agree with anybody that because people can come from 48th to get in the top 12 makes the sport better. You know, because if now we're going to have these passionate stories told on ESPN or CBS or something, okay, but nobody's telling the story. Okay, I love the excitement, right? I have never had a problem with 48 people, and I don't have a problem with the 48 now. And I will stand in a tree on that limb that my man Clyde and I talk about and say it loud. The majority of the people who were screaming about Reinstate 48, including Mr. Herbert himself, who started the tweet, did so because they didn't think they could make it if it was only 32. So my problem is not with the 48. My problem is with the people who, in the way they went about it. And it wasn't for all the events. It was for the distance events. And that has been admitted by many. So I'm done. And if you got something to say, don't tweet me, brother. Call me. You got my number.
Ditto, Mr. Herbert. But where I'm from, you should probably keep your name out of grown folks' mouth.
All right, that's enough of that. That's enough of that. It's enough of that.
But shut that one down right there.
But my thing is this, is that instead of tweeting, you know, stuff trying to be cute, let's celebrate the phenomenal performances by so many coaches. Let's celebrate. Again, this is not the first time somebody that was 32nd in an event made it to the show, and it won't be the last. You know,
it just wasn't. It wasn't a moment for anything negative. So many positive things were happening.
And kudos to my man Clyde for pointing out to me that, because you're just moving in your own space. You don't think about the fact that the Big Ten was renting spaces in other people's cities to have meets. You know, you don't think about that. I mean, when you go to the list and you see the number of people that qualified with these big win marks, and then they got to the meet and didn't jump nearly as far because it was a really windy mark. So there was a lot of stuff like that going on. So instead of us being petty and wanting to jump on this, we're moving the sport forward by having 48. We had 48 because we wanted to protect the distance events. That's what it was all about. And it was fun. And the distance runners showed up and they ran their bus up like everybody else.
Exactly.
You know? So I'm not, this is not about anything other than let's be respectful of people. And let's be respectful of the fact that these young people are out here crushing it. If you were 48th or if you were first, I didn't see anybody in the East prelim get on the track or get on the field and lay down. Everybody brought it. And that's what that should be about. Yeah, that's what that should be about.
Well said.
I'm done, but I'm not, you stop threatening people.
No,
I didn't threaten anybody.
I want to address the tweet in this way, because the direct of the tweet that was aimed at the two of y'all, as I read it, it's more about the move the needle point that Lamar originally was trying to make. I think your original point, sir, was misunderstood, and I'd like you to, kind of, regurgitate like what you really meant by the move the needle piece, because when you were saying move the needle, you weren't suggesting what it seems to be the assumption is.
Clearly he wasn't suggesting that.
No, I mean, you have a full understanding of it. You
Oh,
can
I know I
actually-
do, but some people in our audience don't.
So that way, nobody can say I can do revisionist history. Explain it as you understood it.
What I understood it to mean, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is
Will do.
you weren't saying that the qualifying rounds are somehow going to be more intriguing or more interesting if we cut the numbers. You weren't.
No, not at all.
You weren't suggesting that we needed 32 to make the meet ultimately better.
No, not at all.
And you obviously weren't suggesting that the people from 32 to 48 could never advance, because you know that they do.
It happens every year.
It happens every year.
And so I think the point that you were trying to make by move the needle is, if we're going to pick fights, if we're going to stand on soapboxes to push things forward, we need to make sure that if kid 46 somehow gets through the meet, we need to figure out how to get those kids and their stories told. Because just the fact that, they made the meet, no one cares about other than the people directly coaching them or directly tied to the university. And as someone who's literally been through that, I understood that, and I didn't take offense to it. I've made reference to this before. When I was at Alabama State, we had a young man named Jamie Brown who got into the meet and became an NCAA All-American. If not for the process that we have in place, he wouldn't have been an NCAA All-American. But at the end of the day, the only people that really know that story are the coaches, alumni, and fans of Alabama State University. No one really knows who Jamie Brown is. No one knows his story. No one understands where he was and where he ended up. And if we as a sport can do a better job telling those stories, that's the kind of stuff that does move the needle. And that's what, at least for me, when I heard you talk about moving the needle, I thought you were talking about that kind of stuff.
That's what we should be tweeting about. Okay. And so from the other side of it, from my side of it, I was concerned about the numbers, because we should be concerned about the numbers. And the way the meet was set up, I don't know how it was in the West, but everybody's in the back in the East together. You can't go over in the stands. Everybody's jammed in the back. Now, hopefully nobody got sick. No, there's no fallout from it. But there was a lot of people back there, much greater chance of people, contracting the disease. And that was always my thing, was for safety. That we could have been okay for a year. But hey, we got the 48. It was a phenomenal championship round. It's going to be a phenomenal final round. And I think that's what we should stick to, and not throw, petty pot shots at people because, some people qualified from down low like they do every year. That's all I'm saying. I don't think that the tweet was necessary. I don't think that it was cute at all. And if we want to start tweeting every somebody outside the top 12 makes it, we could be tweeting all day.
Lamar, Lucious, you bring up a good point that I think, if we're talking about track is back, which we are, and we're giving props to things at the West. I want to shout out the Texas A&M organization, if that's correct, or the NCAA, whoever was running the West side of things from a health perspective. I thought they did a phenomenal job. And I know people were worried about this. They broke the testing up into segments based on teams. So whenever you had to show up for testing, there wasn't a lot of people there. You had the ability to upload your vaccination records. And therefore, if you've been fully vaccinated within proper windows, you didn't have to go every day for testing anyway. All good things. The team tent setup felt normal to me, which, you're in isolation in your tents. And then as far as the access to the thing, if anyone's ever been to Texas A&M, they have permanent seating, which is really plush on the common finish side. And that was reserved for the fans and the spectators. Athletes couldn't get up there. Coaches couldn't get up there. I know people tried. Wasn't working.
Not in that facility.
Yeah, the athletes and the coaches were relegated to the non-permanent seating on the backstretch. And so there was always, an invisible line of separation between
was a buffer.
Between what everybody knew to be the people that have tested righteously to be in the building and the audience who may or may not have. You know what I mean? So I thought they did a good job with that, handling the COVID protocols. And
I don't want to imply that Jacksonville didn't, because I think they did what they could based on their facility.
Sure, it's a very different setup. Yeah,
Texas A&M has an 8-lane track, full facility, and for their warm up, and there was a 3-lane track.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
And no, very very little seating. So you couldn't have assigned seats for. So, but again, it went off without a snaz. They worked their butts off. They made it happen. I'm not being critical of anybody and anything that happened in Jacksonville. It's just like I said, but it was a little crowded for something that's going on during COVID. So.
No, yeah, for sure. And I mean, as a person who's taken this thing very seriously the whole time, I was, worried about what I would see. And right. I was therefore very impressed with the way they handled all of that. I thought they did about as good of a job as could be expected on the health and safety.
And we were there for our conference championships, and they did a phenomenal job there as well. And again, Jacksonville did a phenomenal job based on what they had to deal with. So not bad mouthing them at all. They did a great job. Yeah.
Now getting back to the running, there's a very intriguing battle, and of course the audience knows we're going to get into our NCAA predictions on the next show. But one of the events that I am just totally obsessed with right now is the women's 100-meter dash. On the East, for me, the best thing I saw in the East from the women's 100 is, and have been seeing for a while, is still Tamara Clark out of Alabama. However, between Miss Clark, Miss Kemba Nelson, and Miss TT Terry, that's going to be a wild race. And of course, there are other women who can crash that party.
But Bria Sturgis.
Absolutely. Miss Sturgis can come in and spoil the whole thing. But from the end of indoor through this outdoor, it looks like that's the party, right? And you had to be in the building to really appreciate this. On paper, and from the meet results, everybody understand. TT dropped a lifetime best 10.89 with a 1.3 wind. Phenomenal performance. Props to TT, props to Carol. It was a beautiful, beautiful run. Kemba Nelson ran 10.98, and some people are like, yo, that's not close. Yeah, I hear you, but her race was basically zero wind, 0.1. It's going to be a race, folks. And Tamara Clark is going to be a race. And Miss Sturgis, that's one of these battles that is going to play
Miss
out.
Nelson will be partying in her own backyard too.
Yes, she will. Fans or not. Yes, she will.
Yes, she will.
Indoors, no one was checking for Kemba Nelson. like no one was checking for that. She's
They're
the
checking
record
for her
holder.
now.
Yeah, everybody's checking for it now, and
Yeah.
man, it's gonna be a battle, and that
And you look at the people that are in charge.
Yes.
You've got Carol with TT. You've got my man
Curtis.
Oakland with Kemba, and Dwayne with Cambria, and then the backstory with Miss Clark is you got one of the greatest 100-meter sprinters of all time in her
Right.
pocket.
The influence of Carmelita Jeter, which
exactly, yeah.
Like we all know that Jet was added to the Alabama staff, but that's something that's not getting a lot of pub.
Right.
But if you don't understand that Jet has had a significant influence on the mental and physical preparation of that young lady, you're just not paying attention. Jet's a monster, and she's sprinkling that.
Yeah, watching her
on top,
and watching that staff work together with their sprinters and hurdlers has been fun. Been a pain in the butt, obviously, but it's been watching them has been fun. It has.
Now we know that Mr. Lucious is a professional and respectful, and so he doesn't like to be put in a position where he has to pat himself on the back. So we'll just go ahead and do it, because the battle between Baby Joe, Big Joe, however you want to distinguish that young man, Mr. Fambule, and Terrence Laird was phenomenal. Okay. Terrence Laird is without a doubt the number one, the favorite for the men's 200. He's got win legal 19.8 behind his marks this year. He's the favorite. But Big Joe is coming. And for them to run that to the line, what for me, watching them run that to the line the way they did, it kind of looked like the prelims from the Rio race with Bolt and DeGrasse, right? Like, oh, wait a minute, you're right here. What's going on? And it's gonna be fun in the next round. It really is.
Yeah, it was an exciting race. It was. They both did a good job.
It'll be very interesting to see what happens if Joe gets even a pedestrian start.
So I have to comment about, doing my internet trolling in inspection for our show and just being someone who sat at home during prelims, blah, 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 right? The internet coaches who said, if Fambule can do this, then this happens. Well, good luck if he does this, that, and the third, right? And I'm standing like, you don't think his coach knows that? You don't think they work on the whole thing?
Well, it's interesting that you say
that,
that, because I've actually had people email me and like, hey, I can fix a start for you.
Oh my God.
You're lying. You're absolutely lying.
No, I'm not.
Okay,
if you'll give me a call, I'm not trying to offend you. And if everybody on my team was a poor starter, I get it. He's an outlier. And,
okay,
a far outlier.
No, stop. I need to point out two things. I'm only going to point out one of the two. Lucious, Chu just proved your theory wrong, because her introduction of this into the convo is absolutely petty, and I love her for it. Okay? So well done, Chu. But I'm not going to do this because I don't have the list memorized like I know Lamar does. Yes, Chu, I have seen and tried to respectfully participate in some of these conversations over the past couple of days, and it's blowing my mind. So the idea that this is somehow a coaching issue is stupid.
Yeah.
But Mr. Lamar, can you remind the audience of the 60-meter and 100-meter records at the University of Florida, Gainesville, please?
Oh, geez, on the spot. Well, the 100-meter record is, because I get it messed up. It's 9:92, 9:96. But there was another sub 10 on his team, and there's been another sub 10 and another subject. And most of those people were not good starters. They were exceptional starters, not reactors, starters. That's the other thing that the internet has a big problem with, is understanding that when the gun goes off, the first guy to move is not necessarily a great starter. They are a reactor.
We've had that discussion. Reaction
we
time
have had that.
may be the most overrated statistic in the history of track and field.
Yeah, the reactors were born that way. Listen, I'm not even going to attempt to mess up the 60-meter record at the University of Florida, but I know this: I have seen sub 660. I want to say out of 8 or 9 people myself. Something along those lines. I might be off by 1 or 2, but it's something along those lines.
Hey, I think I saw some random hurdler win the 60-meter dash one year.
Now he's random.
Yes.
I don't remember who it was.
See what you did.
But he was a hurdler.
See what you started.
He was a hurdler. He won the 60-meter dash. He was kind of, like a little small dude. It's not like, because coaching big people is hard or something.
Yeah.
But anyway,
if only Sir Lucious could coach the start.
Back to the topic. I have gotten emails of people telling me they can fix the start for me. So
that is ballsy in a way that I can't comprehend.
Right. You should say thank you. Could you please come on out?
No, I'm not. I don't even respond to those things. I just like.
Oh man.
So let's move on to the pro side of things. We had a little talk about one Mr. Isaiah Young last week. He went down to Claremont, dropped 989.
I saw it. It looked good.
Yeah.
It looked good.
Yeah. And Miss Brianna Williams comes up to Jacksonville, runs 1097. And see, Otto is changing some things with her. Yes. And you can see there's a transformation going on. And he told me I'm not done. So yeah, the Jamaican trials are going to be very interesting.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? I'm glad you brought that up, because yes, Brianna looks phenomenal, and if you know what you're looking at, you can see the little the little changes here, changes there that are coming along. I don't think people, and this is gonna wrap back around to another very young person. I don't think people have a proper respect or understanding for how hard it is to develop a phenom at a very young age and then make it continue to evolve. Like, that's really, really hard to do. And we've seen almost annual, teen phenoms that they're burnt out and disappeared by the time they're 21 years old. It's really hard. And I know specifically that Otto caught a lot of hell for the path that Brianna Williams has been on since she was a child. She's grown, she's a professional, and she is continuing to evolve her game. And that is really hard to do. And Otto deserves props and respect for that. And it's fun to watch as a fan. Absolutely. It's fun to watch.
I totally agree. Her race model was phenomenal.
There are so many truly positive things that are going on in professional track this year. And what I think is most awesome is, because of the pandemic and because of the brilliance of Paul Doyle and the ATL, we get to see it all in real time on US soil.
On ESPN2 live.
On ESPN2 live. Not a live
time
stream.
It wasn't like stuck at 3:00 in the morning, prime time.
Not a live stream at 2:47 in the morning from Zagreb. Look, we're fans. We would have watched it then anyway, right?
Yeah,
but just the fact that Joe Normal person flicking through channels can come across a track meet with really good people in it, right? And
that's right.
Remember last week we talked about Mr. DeGrasse, and I made the comment about how like he doesn't run until it starts to matter.
It matters.
So this week he dropped sub 10 on 2 different continents in 3 days.
Yep.
Right.
Right.
That right.
And sub 20.
Right.
Different continents.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know what a map looks like, right? You know, Qatar and Florida are very far apart.
Right.
Just saying.
And look, I've
Right.
taken that flight, and yeah, that's a day's work right there, buddy.
That is a day's
A hard
work.
day's work.
You know, since I mean, honestly, we could do a whole, if we wanted to, we could do a whole show on ATL Jacksonville, because there was a lot going on there.
Yeah, there was.
Absolutely the best of the ATL meets thus far. And, you know, I think where it was, when it was, and all the other things that are, you know, playing along with that. I mean, everybody showed up. It was billed as a mini Olympics or a mini Olympic trials, and that wasn't hyperbolic. Like, there were enough names in enough events across the board. And I mean, you pick an event. I mean, I'm
real rivalries.
Absolutely. And because they're actually lining up in racing, enhancing the rivalries. One thing like that has been going unnoticed that I'm personally excited to see, Michael Cherry is on another level that he's been in the past. And that's something that a lot of us are excited about and, you know, happy to see. He ran 44.
2 letters. J.
Yes.
Absolutely.
S.
Absolutely. John Smith
He
is
is
having
at
a
it
hell of an
again.
influence on that kid.
Yeah.
44-74 in Jacksonville this weekend. You know, dominated that field, a good field. I mean, Robinson was in that field, Lindor was in that field, like, you know, real people in that field, and he took that field to task. But for me, I think something very interesting happened, and I'm sure it was strategic on all sides. But we had the 400 hurdle debut of Dalilah Muhammad, and we had the 400 hurdle debut of excuse me, of Shamir Little, but in separate heats. And Shamir went out there and dropped 53-12, which no one is shocked by, but damn it looked impressive.
Well, Shamir had opened up already. That wasn't her opener.
Oh, I'm sorry, that was not her opener. Then my mistake. But
she ran 53.7 or so earlier, because I was teasing her that she sat and kicking it, and so I was calling her sit and kick. So she told me she wasn't going to sit and kick. She didn't. She took control of the race.
She was gone. She was out.
Yeah.
So that, you know, that was cool. Like, we're all waiting to see that one head to head, but that was cool.
Well, and I'll tell you, one of the things that kind of went unnoticed too in the ATL meet was Gabby Thomas.
I was just about to say that. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Gabby ran 10.94, a little windy, and then came back and ran 50.1.
Right.
51.
Yeah,
something like that.
51 real small. Yeah.
Yeah.
First of all, let's just be honest. If I told you before the year started, I told you there was going to be a pro female athlete that was going to run the 1 and the 4 in the same meet, you'd have bet me all the money on the planet that wasn't going to happen.
That probably so, yeah.
Well, you know what? Props to Tanja.
Yes.
Because you know, Tanja's out there getting work done, and Gabby looks really, really good.
Yeah.
I think we all assume that, you know, come the Olympic trials, it's going to be Gabby pursuing the straight up 200. And maybe that's strategy and maybe it isn't. I don't know. But what I do know is whenever she steps out there to run whatever the hell it is, a 4, a 1, a 150 on the street in Boston, like, Gabby Thomas looks good. And her and Tanja are doing great things together.
Well, knowing Tanja as I do, I'm going to bank on her running the 1 and the 2 at the trials.
Separate weekends, why not?
Yeah, exactly. Tanja's not one to let him sit around. Remember, Tanja had a young lady doubling the 4 and the 4 hurdles back in 16.
Yes, she did.
Maybe final both. Yep.
Yes, she did. And if we're talking about the women's 4, okay, the GOAT did step out there.
Yes, she did.
Flew to the East Coast, which she, you know, doesn't do too often around here, and stepped out there and went 50-66 in the 400, working some things out.
Yeah.
And that's another one. You don't know what Allison and Bobby are up to. but
Not at all.
you don't know. Like we don't know what the plan is, but she looks great. Allison looks great.
No, she was very impressive. And the women's short hurdle races were good again. Got a little bit of the shine taken off of it, but by the false start in the final. But still, when you got 5 or 6 girls running between 12.5, women, I'm sorry, running between 12.5 and 12.6, it's always impressive.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know what? That race was, obviously, when Camacho false started, that definitely took the buzz out of it a little bit. But Brittany Anderson of Jamaica looks really, really good. And that's the women's hurdle race is just I've said this a million times. It's literally the hardest game on planet Earth to play right now. Whenever you think of the NFL or NBA basketball, who's going to get a gold medal in the women's sprint hurdles is the most ridiculous game on earth. And now apparently Brittany Anderson of Jamaica, coached by Rainy, is now in that mix too, because she's been running really, really well and handled that field very well. Camacho Quinn's false start aside, like she's young, man. People don't realize that Brittany Anderson just got on the scene.
Wasn't there a pretty good decathlon this weekend?
See,
I mean,
I'm lobbing that one up there for you.
I heard something about it.
Yeah, just can you enlighten us on this, sir?
Well, I'll say it like this.
Can I say one thing about it? Okay, the dude ran 10:01. I'm done. The dude ran, so it's like, okay, you see run 10:01, like something special about to happen, right?
Yeah, I mean, Damian Warner is he's one of those people who's always been exceptionally talented. And it was always like, man, if he ever figures it out, he's a problem. So here's a news flash, folks. He's figured it out.
Now, sir, you gotta go. You gotta give us, because we don't know who this person is.
89.95 is now the Canadian national record. I just want that to wash over you. 89.95. He is the 4th greatest decathlete by score in the history of that great event. And he's a problem because if you look at how his marks are generated, he's very Ashton Eaton-esque. He's incredibly fast. He runs a very, very, very outstanding quarter. Not quite as fast, but still outstanding. And he also can run a sub 425 1500. So at the end of the day, like if you can run great 100, great 400, great 110 hurdles and great 1500, like you don't go anywhere. You make yourself bulletproof, and at the end of the day, like, Kevin Meyer changed coaches and it's been different since he has. And, everybody else has kind of gotten, Ashton retired. So at the end of the day, like if he can handle, now this is the one issue, right? When you go and you put up 89.95 at Gotsis, now for the rest of the summer, you're the favorite. Now, the good thing is that the games aren't in August and September. They're in July. So he don't have to be the favorite that long. But as long as he can handle, the pressure that comes with, being the favorite for one of the favorite events of the Olympics, the decathlon, as long as he can handle that, he's the kind of problem that there's nothing you can do about it, right? You go to the meet and dude runs 10-0 on you, like, I mean, I know what it was like to drop 10-2 on dudes, and I was like, you know this hurts. I know this hurts you, and there's nothing you can do about it, right? And he follows that up with like an 8-10 long jump.
Now,
very impressive performance.
Now, sir, we need you to give even more background, because honestly, I barely knew who this kid was. So who is he? Where did he go to school? Who are his coaches? Like, what is this background?
No, Damian Warner is like a straight up Canadian. Like, where did he go to school? Is like he graduated from high school.
Exactly. This
right?
is my point.
I mean,
I was
he
like,
may be taking classes
what?
he may be taking classes at UBC or something of that nature. But at the end of the day, he's been a pro since he was 19. And like I said, like he ran 13 in the middle in the hurdles at like 20 years old, right? He ran 10:16 in the 100, I want to say 5 years ago, right? He's always had these fits and starts. He's run 46 in the 400. He's run 419 or 418 in the 1500. But it was never, there was always one event that was a blow up. Once it was the javelin, once it was the vault. You know, he's had a couple things, but what he has finally done is matured as a decathlete and raised his floor. So the highs are still ridiculously high, but there are no low floor events anymore, right? Like he's a 5 meter pole vaulter. There's no, he's bulletproof. As long as he doesn't mess it up, he's bulletproof at this point.
See, I mean, it's just I've got one statement, 89.95. I mean, I'm done.
Yeah. And it wasn't done like in a flukish fashion, right? He all the marks make sense.
No.
Wow.
There was Ronnie Baker sighting this weekend. You know, he's been a little down, and we talked about him in the 40. He ran 9.99 and made it look real easy. And you know, as he said, I talked to him in the back. It's like I'm just wanting to come here and check my gears a little bit, see where I was. And I've got 2 weeks to be ready to run really fast. So
yeah,
it must be nice to just run 9.99 whenever you get ready. But
yeah, just check my gears.
Just checking my gears.
Gears, baby.
Yeah. So shout out to him and my man Daryl Anderson. And so of course, this now sparks the conversation of who runs on the USA 4x1. So folks, let's do this. Let's pick a team. Let's get 3 guys to make the team, and let's see who the relay pool is. Let's see who's in the 200, and then we can hash out all that. But all this internet barbs about who's going to make it and who shouldn't make it and who shouldn't be on the relay. Let's let it work itself out. That's all I'm gonna say. But I will tell you that going into next week, 2 weekends from now, Ronnie will be a part of the conversation at some point. He will.
Oh, it's a little early to be upset about a team that doesn't exist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Now there will be plenty of time to be pissed off about it, and trust me, we will do it right here. But now is not the time.
No, now is clearly not the time.
And you know what?
I for one think that this is going to be a very exciting team. There's just too much going on for it not to be an incredible team. Everybody, let's just sit back, get your popcorn. Let's watch. Let's let the people that do their jobs and doing well get their athletes ready. And I tell people this all the time. Instead of getting behind your computer or your cell phone or whatever you're doing, your iPad, and talking trash about people that are doing, get off your couch. Or as my man Dwayne Ross said, get out of your cushy chair. Come join the fight, baby. Come join the fight.
Hey, well, there's more from the ATL. He's still a baby, but the boy, he's running like a grown man. Arian Knighton, 2011 with the Win Legal. And you know what? For me, I like the fact that the kid stepped out there and showed the poise that he showed. Because again, you're talking about, he had to line up with Trayvon Bromell. Trayvon Bromell has medals. That's not easy to do. I don't care, where the meet is and how it is. That kid is, how is he, 17?
He's been 17 for 3 months. And here's the backstory to that. People forget. Arian's from Tampa. Trayvon's from St. Pete, was right outside of Tampa.
Right.
And so Trayvon's the local legend in that area. So he beat the hometown hero. So, there was a little bit more pressure there than people realize. And he handled it like a champ.
And beat him. Yeah. And beat him. I mean, 2011 to 2020, he beat him.
Wasn't close.
Hell of a race. Hell of a race by that kid. And again, he just turned 17. Does he make the team? Does he not? Who the hell knows? But
who cares?
Right. Who cares?
Because don't we remember the conversations? Why is his kid turning pro? What are they thinking? What's he doing?
Oh yeah.
He'll be okay. Trust me, that one's going to be fine. Yeah, that one's going to be fine. You know,
Track is in good hands, folks.
it is. You know, I'm
Track-
going to say it
track is
before one of y'all
good.
do. There was a pretty good men's hurdle race. 'Cause I knew it was coming, so I'm gonna go ahead and put it out there. So so before you ask me, his grade for the semifinal was an F, and he got a B for the final. So, and there you go.
Listen, I've said this, I think, on a multitude of times on this show, but it is a beautiful thing to watch when a great athlete has joined with a great coach and they have figured some stuff out. It's just fun to watch. And I've been able to see it a few times in my life, you know, in my short stint on this planet. But when it happens, it's just fun to watch.
And let's give props to Devin Allen as well. You know,
That's where I wanted to go with that, because the men's final in ATL Jacksonville was a little anticlimactic because Omar McLeod couldn't step to the line for the finish, and that's, you know, that was the race that everybody wanted to see. So we won, you know, Grant won. Everybody expected him to. Nobody doubted that. But very interesting things were going on behind Grant, and that's Devin Allen and Daniel Roberts look like they're rounding in themselves into shape.
Mm-hmm.
You got a 13:22 and 13:23. Grant is by far the overwhelming favorite to win USA's and the overwhelming favorite to win the gold medal. But and I'm going totally, you know, nationalistic homer here. I miss the days where Team USA had all the medal threats.
All the medals.
Okay.
Yes.
So regardless of whatever the Holloways are going to do with the men's hurdles, whatever that happens, we're all cheering for it. But I want to see everybody else up in the mix doing what they're supposed to do. And Devin Allen and Daniel Roberts are severely talented people who at their best should be in medal contention, period. So I'm very happy to see them getting themselves back to where they're going to be.
Yeah. No question.
We're selfish. We want all the medals. It is what
Absolutely.
Give me.
It is what it is.
And
I mean, it
in
used to be like
the position I am, I want everyone to know. So,
Yeah. It used to be like you could go to the games and you knew certain medals we were gonna
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's get back to that this year. And I also want to.
Yep.
I noticed I saw that LaShawn Merritt showed up this weekend at 45-4.
Yeah, LaShawn slid down into Claremont, and you know,
Yeah, I noticed that.
just
Yeah.
real quiet step. Like there was a lot of, you know, quiet little nuggets dropped around.
Yeah, I think that
weekend.
and Sue Humphrey let us know,
Yeah.
you know, via message that Vashti cleared 201 last
Yeah.
week. And we didn't talk about that. So shame on you, Lamar, for not talking about Vashti.
That's
Well,
right.
I missed it.
I
I'm
want to be very,
sorry.
very clear to the entire audience. If we fumble, if we do not get proper field
let us
event coverage on the show,
Yeah, let
it
us
is
know.
Lamar's fault.
Oh,
100%. Lamar,
Like that.
send all emails and tweets at Lamar.
At Lamar.
I
You can tweet
see.
at him about that with no issues at all.
I see. Okay.
At all.
That's
I mean,
that
you're
is perfectly fine.
because hold on a second, wasn't there like a really big javelin throw here recently? You didn't talk about that either? What's wrong with you, man?
you know, there's been a lot of track going on. I've been actually overwhelmed. I will not even lie to you. There has been a lot of track and field going on. Right.
Yeah. No, look, all jokes aside, I mean, there's just a lot of phenomenal things. I'm sure we miss stuff every week, but the big thing for me has just been, again, like I said, I'm just super excited about the enthusiasm that the athletes and the coaches and even the fans that are participating in this. It's just phenomenal. And I want people to focus on that. I want people to stop being petty, stop throwing barbs at people, stop accusing and pointing fingers. The USA trials are going to be absolutely phenomenal.
Crazy.
If
Craziness.
you're in the area and they let you in the cathedral, get in there and sit your butt down and watch because the trials are always good.
Yeah.
Well, there's something about this year with the extra rest people have had and the extra, fire that got in their bellies. It's going to be a phenomenal trial. So I can't wait to be a part of it. Just cannot.
And we got, sorry, I had a power problem. We didn't need those. We didn't need that going on.
Oh, not that again.
And speaking of the trials, we got great news on the trials that we're gonna get fans.
Yeah.
Or the COVID situation in Oregon has settled to a point where they're gonna allow fans. And I didn't fully understand the press release, but they said they're gonna have vaccinated and non-vaccinated segments of the seating.
You're doing that for the NCAA too.
I assure you, I won't be anywhere near the unvaccinated sections. team backs, but hey, if y'all figured out a way to get them in there, get them in there.
Yeah,
load it up, baby.
Well, I guess
team
that's
vaccination, baby.
That's the beauty of the cathedral, right? It's so big, you can put the vaccinated people on one side and the unvaccinated on the other. So, yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So we were discussing that because for the NCAA championships, it's the same thing. So if you're a couple or you're a family and you come to the meet, if you're vaccinated, you sit over here. If you're not, you got to sit over there by yourself. So.
Hey, and the good thing, there's not a bad seat in the house.
No, there is not.
So you're good, no matter where you end up sitting.
Oh, just don't cough out loud. You gotta swallow that, choke that down.
Yeah. No, that'll happen amongst
amongst the unvaccinated. Yeah.
Right. So that's on them.
Well, let's transition a little bit here and talk about all these great marks that are visible that people are seeing and whatnot, and how specifically as us Americans do in a very heavily manner, always looking for the greener grass. Let's talk about the transfer portal. And
greener grass. Look at you, Chew.
I try, right? The pollen, it's knocking some sense.
Yes, man.
What are the pros and the cons? Are there pros and cons? What are your views on that?
Whew, man. Well, we're gonna let because he was transfer portal last week. We'll let transfer portal coach has been coaching take this one.
Hey, I will say this: the performances are on fire on the track. So is the damn transfer portal.
So I'm going to get these numbers close enough to make it make sense, right? There's like 1,100 female basketball players in the transfer portal. There's 2,300 and some change baseball players in the transfer portal. And I think there's like 1,400 and some change male track athletes in the transfer portal currently, right? These numbers don't have to be exact. It just gives you an idea that there's a humongous, my opinion, there's a humongous problem going on. And that is a lack of stick-to-itiveness with where you are, right? Like if where you are has any level of uncomfortability for you, what today's student athletes seem to do is the grass is greener, right? Let's just transfer. Or if what used to happen, right? Like if you were what you thought was a big time athlete, but you got overlooked and the big schools didn't want you, you went to the small school, wore a chip on your shoulder and wore the big schools out the whole time you were in college. Now you wear the big school out one time, but it's an audition, right? Now you put yourself out there and you just wait for the big schools to come pluck you, because now you're a big school person. And what you won't realize is when you get to the big school, now you have no fire in your belly and you're going to get your head caved in. My issue with the transfer portal is that there's at least 85 or 90% too many people in the portal. I think people are transferring for absolutely transparent and trivial reasons. And that's just not a good idea. Like, as somebody who did have to transfer while they were in college, Like there were ramifications of that. And it's not like I transferred from a bad situation, from a horrible situation anyway, or, or to a bad situation. So my transferring actually went relatively smoothly. And I got a degree from Berkeley out of it. But there were still ramifications to that transferring. And I think so many young people just don't see that at all, right? They're at school X and school Y looks better and more fly, and there's more great athletes on that team. And now school Y wants me, so I'm going to go to school Y. And then you get there, and it's,
and I think
it's not what you thought.
A lot of what's going on in the portal. There's a lot to what you just spoke to, and I think I heard somebody say this, so I'm not going to take credit for it. So you have a lot of mediocre players or mediocre athletes that are, they're mediocre on a team, so they're going to transfer to another team and still be mediocre because I think that's as Chu so graciously said, that the grass is greener on the other side. And so, I mean, look, people should have rights, and if people don't want to be at a school, they have the right to leave. And so I don't have any truck with that. I'm not surprised at anything that's going on with the transfer portal. And it's only going to get worse. And I don't think that there's anything you can't put the sand back in the sandbox now. It's out and it's going to stay out. And I think it's just going to get worse and worse. I think, and obviously the whole thing with the COVID situation and a lot of the graduate seniors that are going to go to other schools. And I think the same thing we saw this year. You'll see a lot of super teams in track and field next year for the same reason, because of the fifth year transfers people. And but again, I don't know how you solve the transfer portal problem. It's there. There's no way. Again, you can't put it back in. You can't put it back in the can now. And so it's here to stay. You can't take it away, and you just better get used to it. And I think you're right. There'll be tons of people in there every single year.
Every year.
And there'll be good athletes, great athletes that go to other schools and do well, and there'll be mediocre athletes that just take their same problems and their mediocre talents somewhere else. So, pros, cons, it is what it is.
Okay. So for me, can y'all still hear me?
Yes,
we can hear you.
Picture's freezing a little bit, but we can hear you.
Okay. So I've always tried to look at this issue as fairly as I could, because I was a kid who transferred. I left UCLA and ended up graduating from the University of South Carolina. I believed at that time that I had a very righteous reason to transfer, which was very simple. My coach, John Smith, was let go by my university, and that's who I wanted to run for, and that's who I came to UCLA to run for, and therefore I felt like I needed the right to transfer, or I had the right to transfer. In my day, I had to get permission, and I felt like it was ridiculous that I had to seek permission to do something that should have been, very easy for me to do. Luckily, my head coach at the time, Art Benegas, respected me enough to just make it easy for me. Coaches in our profession have the freedom to move as they see fit, when they see fit, for whatever reason that they see fit. And therefore, the athletes should enjoy those same freedoms. So on a principle, I am 100% for the existence of and the necessity of the transfer portal. But there is no denying that it is absolutely off the chain right now. And honestly, I expected it to be that way, because when you grant the athletes the freedom to move as they see fit, you're also opening the floodgates to more entitlement and more delusion. The fact of the matter is, there's a big chunk of NCAA D1 athletes, and I'm going to focus on our sport because there's too many nuances, between the other sports that all play a part in this. But in our sport, there's a lot of delusion going on. There's a lot of there's a good significant amount of people in Division I track and field that belong in Division II. And there's another swath of people who are in Division II that belong in Division III. And that basic delusion and that basic chase for status leads to a lot of bad decisions. And the transfer portal allows for more bad decisions, decisions made on emotion, decisions made on ego. And it allows for a lot of young people to just be really, really delusional about where they are and the place that they hold on their own teams or in the ideas of the teams that they think they belong on or should be on next. The funny thing, or I guess the tragic thing, depending on your outlook, is if you look at the transfers and where they end up and what they were before and where they end up after, the vast majority of them get worse. And it probably has a lot to do with the why of which they were leaving in the first place. If you're the type of person who can't look at yourself and evaluate why you're not meeting whatever expectations you've set forth for yourself, all you want to do is blame the coach, blame your teammates, blame the environment, you're probably not going to do very well at the next place anyway. And the most tragic part that I've seen about the transfer portal are solid athletes who think more of themselves than reality would suggest, give up a good situation, chasing a worse financial situation, and end up really screwing themselves over. So, for me, I'm a coach in this sport. I shop the transfer portal for talent just like everybody else does. And when I talk to these people, I really want to find out the why behind what they're doing in there, because the why will tell me a lot about the character of the people that we're trying to pursue. And so, I think the transfer portal is necessary and righteous, but I think it's being used poorly for the wrong reasons by the vast majority of athletes who put themselves in there. And I think some self-reflection and some self-realism will go a long way to fix a lot of these problems. But Lamar's right. And, if you're Kid X and you were forced to take a small school situation and you thought you were a big school product or whatever, you're ripe for entry into the transfer, because, you just think of yourself in a certain way. And luckily, I was, until this current position that I'm in, I've always worked at small schools. And I've always been pretty good at building relationships with my athletes. If you build the right relationships, usually your talent won't walk on you. If they can see the value in the work that you're doing and the work that you guys have done together, and they can see the development and the improvements, usually they won't walk on you. But some people just want the big names on their chest. And you're right, it is an audition. And that's how they look at it. And I don't necessarily fault the kids for taking that attitude. If you feel like you got to take position X out of high school and go audition your freshman year, your sophomore year to get yourself to a big situation, cool. But just understand the risk that's involved with that, and understand it may not be all that you thought it was when you get there. So I just hope the kids make better decisions and take some real stock of what they're doing.
Yeah, I always think it's interesting how kids think that a 90% scholarship at a mid-major equals a 90% scholarship at a Power 5.
Oh, yeah.
It's just not the same, right? Like the thing that most of these student athletes don't want to admit is that they have been evaluated and priced properly.
A lot of times they have.
A lot of times they have. And like, look, I'll give you an example that I heard of today in baseball. The young man hits in the 5-hole for a team that was 1 out away from making the NCAA tournament. But he has always felt like he was better than the mid-major level. And this is his opportunity with the transfer, the one-time transfer being allotted to baseball players. He's a big timer. So he puts himself in the portal and he's drawing interest from two schools at the bottom of the best conference in baseball. So unbeknownst to him, coaches talk. So one of the coaches from one of the bottom schools calls a coach that I know and asks what the kid's parents' financial situation is like, because they're going to try to get the kid to be a recruited walk-on. This dude is on a giant scholarship at a school that was one out away from playing postseason baseball, and he's going to a school that has no prayer of playing postseason baseball, but during the year they're in the shinier conference.
And that's
so he's without question he's gone to a worse scenario.
And that's obviously a very apropos baseball analogy, but that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like,
no, exactly, that's it right there.
It's mind blowing to me. At my previous institution, I got an email from a kid in the transfer portal who was the conference champion where they were, and thought that they belonged at a higher level. And I'm just like, I hear you. The kid said, I've accomplished everything that I can accomplish at this level, and so I want to move up to the next level. And I'm like, I appreciate that, but you do realize that right now all of your bills are paid for, and the level that you want to be at, none of your bills are going to be paid for, right?
None of them.
So have you discussed this with your family? Like, did you just make this decision on your own? Because it doesn't make any sense to me financially. And I don't get it. And there's so many situations like that, man. Like, I don't know. And of course the NCAA won't do this because, it would cost money, and it's really not their job to fix the emotional decisions of young people. But I almost feel like I really wish these kids would have some kind of like mediator where, before they make an emotional decision to go put themselves in the portal, you get some kind of actual evaluation of yourself. Much like players can get an evaluation before they decide to go in the draft. Like, hey, you're actually not a first round pick, so you might want to stay put another year. Something like that. I know that won't happen, and it'd be impossible to set up. But I just wish they had better perspective. I really do.
That would be a great position. The NCAA transfer portal advisor. You can call the transfer portal hotline. My name is Michael Holloway. My current PBs are 1359 windy and 5020.
Windy, dog.
Because if you had run that fast, win legal and more than once, everybody would know you already, right?
Right.
That's
right.
Right. Good point.
Right. And that's the guy that goes to the portal, is the guy that ran fast, windy. So he calls, and the portal advisor says, "Okay, I understand. Like, I put your marks in my little lexicon. I know what you're worth. Tell me what you would like." Well, okay. Well, I want to go to the SEC and be on 65% scholarship or greater. I'm sorry, Mr. Holloway. That does not compute. You grade out as a 25 to 30% athlete in the SEC, and a 60% scholarship should not be available to you. We would advise that you stay put. That is all. Bloop.
Right. No, it would be absolutely brilliant. Hell, for the right salary, I'd volunteer to have that job. I got no problem speaking truth to delusional people. I actually enjoy it.
Amen.
I would totally take that job. At least can we get somebody from Apple or something to build an algorithm? Can we add an algorithm to the transfer portal? You put in your PRs and it just directs you like, yeah, don't make that call. Can we do that?
Not
Because
happening.
Lamar's right. It is always the wind-aided marks.
Oh, no question.
It's always that. Coach, I ran
Oh.
9.9. Bro, there was like 6.0 meter wind behind it. Your PR is 10.7. Like, what do you want me to do with this?
1016 and 2094. First of all, those don't match. But secondly, I will hit the Google button and realize your PB is 1042 and 2130. But one time with a 4.9, you went ahead and hit that 1016 and 2094.
And you know what? The only other thing that I really want to say to any athletes that watch this show, any parents of athletes that watch this show, guys, like, the world is really small. All the coaches know each other.
And
Like,
talk.
We literally, whether we like each other or not, we know each other, and we can find out the story. Like, you can't pull this stuff off. Like, if you go in the portal, whether you want your current coach to talk to the new coaches that you're pursuing or not, if the new coaches feel like it, that conversation is going to happen. Like, it's just going to happen. So, stop, trying to be, cloak and dagger with it, and just be straight up and have real conversations. I think you'll do better.
You know, for a fact that we have student athletes who watch the show, like, they've reached out to me. Please take note of these things. I assume you are not those people because you watch this show for education and for life purposes, but spread the word. Talk to a friend. Spread the common sense, because it is common sense. It's the ego, the pride, and the grass is greener mentality that leads you astray. So I 1,010% agree with everything that you gentlemen have said about the portal. I actually treat it like let's run, and I only go there for purpose. I don't fish the portal for that reason, and because of other reasons. But wow, that was a lot of information. A lot of information. Before we move on to rapid fire, I am going to stick one more thing in. We brought up Sue Humphrey's name earlier, but she mentioned Vashti's mark and whatnot, and her successful attempt at 201, and then I think she had good attempts at, I think it was 203 that she was trying. But her high jumper, and her name is escaping me right now, so I apologize, also made the standard. So we actually have 2 U.S. high jump potentials. So I thought that was definitely of note, because I don't recall off the top of my head that's happened in a while. So that's pretty awesome. But no reality, because I need to gain my confidence back since I shot so many bad shots last week. So I'm going to take a breath, and we'll come back to that one next week. But Lamar, coach has been coaching, is on rapid fire this week. Make it not painful, hopefully, but quick for sure. Sir, are you ready?
My hat is backwards. I'm ready to go over the top.
It's been switched on. So these are wonky. I'm on a recruiting trip, so my brain and the pollen in my brain isn't working as it usually is. So this is all random, spurred by my drive.
This ought to be good.
I know, right? Hey, word up to Illinois and those cornfields. So, all right. Are you a scooper or a dipper?
I'm a scooper.
Ugh, selfish. Leave some dip for somebody else, dude.
No.
When you're in a hotel staying over, do you walk around barefoot, or do you always keep your feet covered?
I want to lie and say I always keep my feet covered, but that's just a lie. I walk around barefoot. And I know it's gross, and it's not even intentional. It just happens.
Goodness gracious. All right. So hopefully you remember this. I don't know, those grays are popping through a little bright lately.
Oh, I see.
Runts candy. Do you know what I'm talking about? Runts,
Yes,
the banana candies. Do you eat them or do you toss them?
absolutely toss them
Oh, why do you have to say it so aggressive?
because I'm not
That's
eating.
true.
I'm not eating
I eat them.
banana. I'm not eating banana flavored candy. You can have all of mine.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate it. What was the most off event that you did to help your team? As I'm going to assume it's a high school. Decathlon does not help because you actually get to medal in that one. So,
Oof. Well, I did the discus in a collegiate dual meet. Does that count?
was
Like
that
in a
before your
pack,
D?
I did a discus in a Pac-12 dual meet. Well, it was Pac-10 then.
Yeah, interesting.
I scored.
Of course you did. I'm gonna cut that one. What is your dipping sauce of choice? I'm gonna leave that one alone.
What'd you say?
What is your dipping sauce of choice?
Is this just standard chips that we're dipping?
No, let's call it nuggets. We'll go for nuggets.
Nuggets get dipped in honey mustard.
Got it. If anybody, so I don't know if this is an Indiana thing. I haven't figured this out yet, but it is Google verified. Wendy's has Sawsum sauce. I think it's
Yeah.
Sawsum, something to that effect.
It's sauce and sauce.
Ask if they have it. I have student athletes who swear by it. I still am not courageous enough to go for it, but let us know. Let us know if you're courageous enough. National Donut Day is on the day that the show premieres, not premieres either, releases, sorry. June 4th.
One of the days.
What is your donut of choice?
The original glazed yeast.
Got it. Last question. What is the one place that you have not visited yet that you still want to visit?
Ooh, I only get to pick one?
Yes. Stop
My
being selfish.
goodness. I'm sorry. One place that I have yet to visit. Can we include Lucious's Palace? Because I haven't been there yet.
No. Well, yes. Just one place. Just
That
one
was
place.
That was my petty shot. I have never been to Tahiti, and I want to go.
Beautiful pictures. My screensaver shows me.
Yeah. And
Love it.
don't laugh at me like being a broke kid, like the soda that they had in the store when I was a kid was Tahitian treat. And I just always thought I bet they don't even have that there. But
No, they don't.
I know. I'm an adult and I know better now, but I still want to visit Tahiti.
I heard it's awesome. Well, thank you, sir. You survived. Hopefully this is what happens when you drive in the middle of nowhere for 3+ hours. You think of these random questions.
Right. I thought you were going to ask me a question about the difference between growing crops of corn, soy.
No. Anyways, thank you very much. Thank you for that insightful vision into your life. But let's go and wrap up with our heartbeat props per usual, giving shout outs to people who deserve them and are still here to hear them. So does anybody have any urge?
I mean, I'll go first because I'm easy. This is easy for me tonight. I want to give a props to the NCAA, to the officials and coaches and everybody involved with the running of the two preliminary competitions. A lot of hard work, a lot of passion and dedication went into those efforts, and both meets went off really well. And when you think about the fiasco that could have been with the West and the weather fiasco they had, the way they handled that, and obviously the ways the athletes handled it on the back end of it. So props to everybody involved with that. Well done, everyone.
I'll go. Mine is in the same realm, dealing with the NCAA prelims. The notion of the postseason is, the motto is survive and advance. me and mine did not survive in advance. I don't have any individual athletes or relays advancing on to Oregon, but I am extremely proud of the work that my kids did this year. We learned some really harsh lessons at the NCAA this past week that I think will serve everybody moving forward. And at the end of the day, as I sit back and reflect on the season that was for us, I can hold my head up and say I'm really proud to say that every single one of my kids ran at least one lifetime best. My top young lady, Miss Ezene Abba, is now the school record holder in the women's 60-meter dash and the women's 100-meter dash. And, you know, she's come a really long way in a short period of time. Neither her or I are happy with the way our season is ending, but she's really gifted. She's really talented, and she figured some things out this year. And I'm proud of her, and I'm proud of all of my kids and how they handled themselves this year in really difficult circumstances. So to the Cal Sprints and Hurdles crew, great job. And more specifically to our new best ever female sprinter in the history of the program, Ezene Abba, fantastic job, lady. And we're back to work next year.
I want to give my heartbeat props to all of the college coaches who have given up personal time, found places for people to train, figured it out, you know, in the midst of a pandemic where there were no rules and no history to work from, whose seasons just ended. Our colleague being one of them. And the reason I want to give my heartbeat props to those people is because they work just as hard as those whose seasons are going to continue. And they've been through not as much more than their athletes have been through during this pandemic, but nobody's checking on them. Like, it's okay to take a day or two of mental health days to just take a breath, to go hug some people that you've been isolated from because you had to lock into your collegiate job for a while.
Press Pro out complete.
That was painful. I don't even know what that was.
Keep moving.
Okay. But at the end of the day, college coaches work their tails off. And in a year of a pandemic, look, I mean, we're all guilty of it, right? We all check on the kids. We all talk about how the pandemic has affected the kids. And you know what you couldn't do as a coach? Opt out. That you did not have an option of. Yeah, so-and-so school X, I've decided that I'm going to opt out this year. You're going to pay me, and I'll be back next year when there's a vaccine. And so I don't want the work of those who don't feel like they've gotten the fruits of their labors because they're not going on to the cathedral. I don't want their work to go unnoticed and unglorified. My heartbeat props go out to all of the college coaches who've had their baseball seasons and their track seasons and their whatever seasons have come to an end, the brutal end that sports gives you, because no matter what your record was this year, you worked your asses off, and most of it in a thankless fashion. And so, at least from my perspective, I'm going to give you one of these, because being a college coach in the 2020 and 2021 years has been more work than anybody signed up for.
Staying on the same line, being that Division I just was released from their leashes, to go visit places and have people come visit. The 21 and 22 recruits, big ups to you for being steadfast in getting in communication and staying in communication, performing when needed, and just to keep showing up. You all are doing special things like we're talking about in the collegiate scene, on the high school age group scenes, to keep your hopes alive, to keep competing. So congrats to you. I know a lot of state meets are coming up, if not been finishing in the last week or so. Keep working, do what you got to do, and hopefully your fight keeps going after this if it's supposed to be. So, gentlemen, thank you as always. This was a good one. We went all over the place on this one. All over the place, left, right, center, upside down, and back and forth. So let us know what we missed. If you've got a thought, a progressive thought, not a fighting thought per se, let us know. But other than that, hope you all rest up. For those who are making the trip out to Oregon, safe travels, best wishes. We will be coming to you earlier next week because we are going to give you predictions. So we will let the show, it will come out on the Wednesday of prior. And that way, maybe I'll keep tabs. I'm sure somebody's going to keep tabs. But we'll do that, and we'll let the week fall out or unfold in front of our eyes. So specifically you, Sir Lucious, best wishes to you and your squad that's going. And other than that, we will see each other soon. Be safe, everyone.
Peace.